All righty, I think we're back. I believe we're back.
Arizona found one by using seismic data, Doppler radar, and witness information to zero in on the search area. He says just a few days ago his meteorite was hundreds of thousands of miles past the moon, and now he's holding it in his hand. A meteorite consultant at Crystal Auction House has offered $20,000 for a recovered fragment. Amy King, KFI News.
The Screen Actors Guild Awards for 2018 are out. The big winner this year, the 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri.
By the way, we are, if you're following along at home,
Also claimed the award for outstanding performance.
we're having chicks in my house.
Gary Oldman won the SAG Award for outstanding performance by a male actor in a leading role for his turn in The Darkest Hour.
Churchill reminds us we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. You have given enormously tonight, and I am so deeply, deeply honored.
Trophy is Oldman's first SAG Award. Traffic from your helpful SoCal Honda Traffic Center stall in Downey in the 5.
That's on the southbound side of Lakewood Boulevard, taking up the left lane while you drive from Fairmont Boulevard. Slow drive in Commerce on 5 South between Northwood Avenue and Slauson Avenue. San Juan at 10 West at 4th Street. We have SoCal Honda traffic cameras cleaning up from an earlier car fire.
We eat the roosters. We eat the eggs of the hens. We have a permanent pimp squad of 3 roosters. If we get any more roosters, we whack them when they're about 5 months old.
Hello. Hi, Susan. I'm the helpful Southern California. One minute. You, random act of helpfulness.
Oh, my God. Okay.
We heard you need help donating to a great cause.
Yes. Choose a Fit is an organization that pairs up volunteer with schools neediest children, and they supply last year over 103,000 children.
Power ad, can you see that? You charge it up with this side,
Their self-esteem, it helps with their school attendance.
or you can
We're going to donate over 100.
charge it,
Oh my gosh.
with a mini USB.
Thank you so much.
And it has it's got like a 1 amp and a 2 amp outlet, so you can speed charge. So that's what I'm doing with this. Yeah, it's pretty rugged too, I gotta say. I now have a rubber armored one that's 6,000 milliamp hours. But this power ad one seems to be the way to go.
Scattered frost. And then tomorrow, partly cloudy, a little bit warmer. Beach highs mid to upper 60s. Highs in the mid 60s to low 70s. Tomorrow for the inland areas, including the valleys and the IE. Tuesday and Wednesday will bring sunny and warmer conditions. Highs both days near 70 at the beaches. Low to mid 70s inland. Then slight chance of showers starts late Wednesday. It goes up to about a 40% chance of showers for Thursday. Highs Thursday in the 50s and 60s. Right now, 45 in Brea, 46 in Lake Forest, 55 in Marina Del Rey, and 49 in Burbank. We lead local from K 24-hour newsroom. I'm Michael Shipman.
He. Thank you. Super Hyper Local Sunday with Brian Suits.
We start with breaking news from Hollywood. People stabbed.
It looks like we're coming to a stop out here. The door is open. This guy is getting out of the vehicle. What? Oh, he's got a gun. He has got a gun. Yeah, this is not going to end.
Super with Brian Suits on KFI.
KFI AM 640, more stimulating talk at the Super Hyper Local Sunday. Hour number 2, Brian Suits in here till 10 p.m. Then we hand it over to Coast, and we'll get to the Flu Toll movies, and then the day in sports, all over the gridiron. And will Johnny Depp join a shock band? We'll see. If you missed last hour, here's some highlights from, frankly, our overly lengthy explainer about the Fresno tapeworm.
It's wiggling, and he's sitting on the toilet. And he's like, oh, so he doesn't know what to do with himself.
But we do want to remind you that pictures are not for the squeamish. Christina?
It began with a trip to the bathroom, some bloody diarrhea, and the realization that something was dangling from his rectum.
So if you want to hear that, that's going to be podcast very, very soon. But meanwhile, tragedy across the Southland. And I want to By the way, I want to give a quick shout out to producer Joey Murata because he divided tonight's content into murders, deaths, killings, shootings and casualties, natural disasters and destruction, and torture and pestilence. So I like torture and pestilence. And also, I'm streaming live on YouTube at unsheepyourself.com, and I'm holding it up to the camera. See right there, torture and pestilence, everybody. But we're not done with the homicides. This one is confusing because I'm getting a different bit of information from Channel 7 than I am from their print account. An investigation is underway Sunday morning after 2 people were found shot, one fatally, near a homeless encampment by the 110 freeway in Highland Park. It all started when a man who was heard screaming for help managed to run from a shooting to the 300 block of Avenue 57, according to the LAPD. Nearby neighbors heard the screams and helped the victim, who was shot in the neck and arm. When officers arrived, mind you, this is 4 a.m., they were alerted by the victim to a second gunshot victim in a homeless encampment along Avenue 52 along the LA riverbank near the 110 freeway on-ramp. The second victim was found dead inside the tent. The surviving victim told investigators that both men were asleep inside the tent at about 4 a.m. when 2 suspects, believed to be in their 20s, broke into the encampment and opened fire. Both victims are homeless. Their names have not been released. The survivor is expected to be out of the hospital this afternoon. Investigators said they do not believe either of the victims are suspects in the shooting. Or are they? Well, so here's how this went down on our friends at Channel 7 down the street here.
Well, we're getting more information. We understand that this is one of 2 locations. We believe the shooting happened here, but that a victim made it to another location. Take a look at the scene that we're looking at. So you can see yellow tape that's blocking this side of the LA River.
Check.
On the other
Yellow
side
tape.
onto that freeway. And if we zoom in a little bit, you can see some kind of encampment over there. That is where we've seen some police activity. The body, we believe, is on that side of the riverbank. Now, let's take a look at some video from earlier. This is what police have confirmed so far. They say they got a call at 4:15 this morning about a shooting victim that was on Avenue 57 and via Marisol. Now, when they arrived there, they found a man suffering from a gunshot wound. Now, he told them that there was another victim here where we're standing, near 52nd Street and the LA River in Highland Park. He also said that that person had been shot in the head. When officers arrived here, they say they found a body near the freeway. Now, the first victim was taken to a hospital. Police say that neither one of them was a suspect. So again, one person was shot and killed here at this location on the LA Riverbank on 52nd Street. Another person somehow made it to 57th Street a few blocks away, and that way he was found there by police. So still a lot of details that we're looking at. We do understand, though, that neither one of the victims is considered a suspect. Police are looking for a suspect.
But the confusing part was they were showing a car on the on-ramp that looked like it was part of the investigation with doors open and cops were searching it and all that. So that's why I was a little confused that I am to believe that 2 men in their 20s basically went hunting for homeless or something. I mean, wackier stuff has happened. There have been those guys who light homeless people on fire and things like that. But that is what we are supposed to believe. Well, what happens when you bring a bicycle to a gunfight? Well, you get shot. And I have to shout out at Channel 5 KTLA because they effectively tweeted this afternoon that a guy pulled over for bike infractions failed to comply and was shot by Long Beach PD. They're leaving out some pretty big details. So here's the story. A suspect was wounded in an officer-involved shooting that resulted from a fight with an officer in Long Beach yesterday. The gunfire rang out, as it does, shortly before 6 p.m. in an alley between Adriatic and Baltic Avenues. Investigators said officers tried to stop a suspect who was on a bike, but the 25-year-old took off running. Long Beach Police Sergeant Brad Johnson said, quote, when the officer caught up with the suspect and the officer got in a fight where the officer was punched in the face by the suspect. The suspect tried to disarm our officer, which led to the officer-involved shooting, close quote. The phrase that pays there is disarm, the act of trying to take a weapon from somebody else. Authorities said one officer opened fire, striking the suspect once in the leg. He was rushed to a hospital in stable condition and expected to survive. So, sorry about that. If you try to disarm a cop, and all you borderline dirtbags who are thinking of entering a new career in crime, Keep in mind this. You may be unarmed at the moment, but the minute you start wrestling for a cop's gun, you're trying to kill the cop. That's what the jury says. That's what the law says. You better hope I'm not on that jury. But if you're trying to reach for a cop's gun, you're trying to disarm that officer. That means you're trying to kill that officer. So, again, don't bring a 10-speed to a gunfight. Here's a little bit of Channel 7 on that one.
Jory, this remains a very active scene. You can see live over my shoulder here all the officers that remain out here. That suspect hospitalized tonight with a gunshot wound after police say he tried to grab the officer's weapon. The investigation continues into the night after an officer-involved shooting in Long Beach.
They started throwing out their guns, and that's when he told someone to get on the ground or something, and then that's when it went from there. They just told him, basically get on the floor before they opened fire.
The gunfire rang out just before 6 p.m. in an alley between Adriatic and Baltic Avenues. The investigators say officers tried to stop the suspect, who was on a bicycle, but the man, said to be 25 years old, took off running.
When the officer caught up with the suspect and the officer got in a fight, where the officer was punched in the face by the suspect, and then the suspect tried to disarm our officer, which led to the officer-involved shooting.
I heard 3 gunshots, and I thought I was tripping for a second, and I'm like,
why don't you edit this person out? I mean, what is she bringing to the table? We've already had one witness already who sounded fairly credible. Okay, that's all I need. Man on the street. Shots rang out. Then along comes this woman.
I heard 3 gunshots, and I thought I was tripping for a second, and I'm like, no, that can't be. So I look at my window, and then I see, like, police cars, like, coming up the street, and I'm like, what is going on here?
Officials say,
and I'm like, Channel 7, are you really that bored on a Sunday that you're like, let's leave that woman in because, like, she brings so much to the table? I'm like, be a little more discriminating in the future. I'm like, put that stuff on the cutting room floor. Or you should ask your anchors if they would use the word tripping in a normal conversation. Over to Dallas Raines, who seems to be tripping about this snow on the grapevine. So that was the doings there in Long Beach. And again, we get these reminders every couple of weeks here in Los Angeles that if you bring stupidity to a gunfight, you're going to lose a gunfight. And disarming a cop is legally tantamount to attempting to murder the cop. Are you borrowing it because you admire it? Well, maybe state that beforehand and he might let you borrow it. But if you're forcibly trying to remove that weapon from a cop, you're trying to kill the cop. Okay, got it? Motorcycle accidents, more coming back. Also, flu update, movies, and what happened in the gridiron across the country, in the frozen Northeast. That and more coming up on Super Hyper Local Sunday. Brian Suits in here until 10 p.m. KFI, AM 640. More stimulating talk. Michael Chappé with the news.
Authorities say a pregnant woman shot while sitting in a parked car is expected to survive. So's her unborn child. That shooting happened last night.
I thought it was Shark Tank. Let's see if I can do it.
Hey. What's he doing? Is he guiding the laser?
Yeah, you have to block the IR.
That's handle to save 10% at LifeLock.com. Call 800-LifeLock.
Those mostly Mostly 30s and 40s overnight. Partly cloudy tomorrow. Highs in the 60s to right around 70. Traffic from your helpful SoCal Honda Traffic Center. Crash in Pico Rivera on the 605.
This is on the northbound side of Beverly Boulevard, taking up your right lane, backing up your drive from Whittier Boulevard. Santa Monica taking us to
Heard about Cabo?
or fire.
Yeah, didn't they wrap that up?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 'cause it was a couple days ago.
Yeah, the last two guys were running around for a day or something. Do you watch Stranger Things?
I haven't. Yeah, it's on the list.
So many people said you got to watch it. I watched it to episode 7 of season 1, and I just didn't really have the fire to complete it. It's like I get it.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I get it.
Or what?
So it's a monster, but you're throwing in 80s music, so you're pressing the nostalgia button. And it's funny because people, that's the trigger of nostalgia. Yeah.
Okay, you got 4 minutes.
It's so predictable.
Really? That's a shame.
And you just have to go 20 years past because the people that are nostalgic from 20 years ago are now buying houses and all that. So they're your money demo.
Yeah.
So that is the magic to nostalgia. Because otherwise, it's kind of a mediocre monster story.
Yeah.
With
What's the other one though you mentioned that took place as like a retro? It was a Russian thing with the.
Comrade Detective.
That's right.
Yeah, that's hilarious. SAG Awards. Let's see who won the SAG Awards. Oh, I ran out of power. There we go. Did auto shut